Earlier this year, I picked Oklahoma to win two pretty notable games. I picked them to beat Michigan at home. I picked them to beat Auburn at home in the Jackson Arnold return to Norman. They won those games. And a lot of people suddenly bought in. Oklahoma is here. Oklahoma is an SEC championship contender. Oklahoma should be able to have a shot at the playoff. Tough back half of the schedule, but look at what they've already done so far. And yes, I did pick them to win because they were at home over the week. I did not change my expectation of the Sooners from what I had them at before the year, which was 8-4. Looks like a pretty likely record at this point in time. They have Missouri and LSU at home to end the season, following a road game, a bye, and another road game against Tennessee and Alabama. They might lose both of those and then win the final two down the stretch and wind up right where I had them before the season. Oklahoma is having a good year. I'm not going to look back and dub the season a failure because they didn't make the SEC championship game or because they lost to Ole Miss at home and their defense let them down. Of all of the things to come up short in a big spot, Oklahoma's defense couldn't get off the field. I'll get to Ole Miss. I will get to Ole Miss. I will. But I want to start with the Sooners because they're having one of the more kind of unique seasons. I think because of the way their schedule is set up, it's a lot easier on the front. It is a lot tougher on the back. It's not going to be easy, and they control their own destiny to get into the playoff. 9-3 will give them a chance. 10-2 will get them in. They'd have to win all 4 games in that spot. I don't expect them to do that. Oklahoma, though, has taken a step forward. This was a pressure year for Brent Venables after a season in which they went 6-7, ending with a loss to Navy. To Navy? I don't care who was or wasn't playing in the bowl game. You shouldn't lose to Navy. You're the Oklahoma Sooners, for goodness sake. But that's a real thing that happened. So that was a sour end to a disappointing year. And the Sooners reload. They come back. Defense looks really good. That's Brent Venables' specialty. He's calling the plays. He's really good at that. Wasn't good enough on Saturday. But Oklahoma's not a finished product, and I never thought they were. It's why I didn't pick them to go to the playoff or the SEC championship game, and why my perception of them didn't really change after they won those 2 games earlier this year. I think there was an overreaction element to go, well, look at what they did. And yeah, I picked them to beat Texas. I picked them to beat Ole Miss. But coming down the stretch, I always thought it was going to be difficult. There are going to be more losses here. This is a team that still does not consistently throw the football. John Mateer has shown some limitations. The injury has not helped. I fully concede that. There's a bigger problem at play. Oklahoma is one-dimensional. And what some of us were pointing out, even after the wins, was, hey, your entire offense is number 10. There's no consistent help from receivers. When he doesn't make a perfect throw, there is no running game. There is no screen game. There's nothing. There's just number 10. When Oklahoma finally had a 100-yard rusher this year, it came at South Carolina, who's not a great team. I don't think they're a horrible one. They're not having a good season, but they're not great. They're not great, but Oklahoma played well in that game. What'd they do? They ran the ball. They had a 100-yard rusher, and that is what has been missing, what I felt like was missing all year. Like, wait a minute, they brought in Jay Knott from Cal. That was a big transfer portal move. Where is he? Where is, okay, he's not the number 1 guy, fine. He doesn't have to be the number 1 guy. But where exactly, and I know Xavier Robinson ended up with 100 rushing yards in this game because he broke some big ones. That's good and fine, and the offense is productive. But this just goes back to what I was saying. They're not there. I think they could get there. I think Brent Venables is doing more than enough to keep his job. I don't think missing the playoff or the SEC championship game should generate hot seat talk. Oklahoma down the stretch would have to lose all 4 games for me to get to hot seat conversation. Because if I pick you to go 8-4 and you wind up going 7-5, I can't go, oh, that was a dramatic underperformance of my expectations. It's like, no, it's not. It's the way the schedule worked out. Once things rotate around in their 3rd year in the SEC next season, they should, emphasis on should, have an easier schedule, closer to what Texas has had for their first 2 years in the SEC. And boy, does Texas need that easy schedule this year. They're struggling week after week. Poor Mississippi State. Oh my goodness. I mean, what do the Bulldogs have to do? A 17-point lead in the 4th quarter for their first SEC win under Jeff Lebby, and the defense lets them down. I mean, they covered for my best bets, but my heart broke for them. That was tough. That was a tough sight in Starkville. They were ready to explode, ready to erupt, and they had it, and then all of a sudden they didn't. Props to Texas for coming back and figuring out how to play some offense there. But Oklahoma does not consistently play a good brand of offensive football. And so when John Mateer isn't 100%, or when your defense is having an off day, you don't have an ability to cover for that. You were relying. It reminds me a bit, frankly, and I know everybody wants to hear about this right now, but just bear with me here. It reminds me of my own golf game. I'm a really good striker of the ball. My putting is dreadful. I have never been, I literally every round strive to be an average putter. If I can be an average putter, I am really good at golf, but I struggle to do that. And it holds me back from being better than I am. And I try to work on it as much as I can. Because if I have a day, which is going to happen in golf, even though I hit the ball very well, if I have a day where I don't hit it very well, I can't rely on my putting to pick me up and keep the score level. It will go off the rails. So that's how I look at Oklahoma, is they're operating with not a razor-thin margin, but too thin of a margin to be an elite team in college football. And that's what happened on Saturday. When your defense let you down, you didn't quite have enough. 26 points against that Ole Miss defense at home, whether or not. Ole Miss didn't have a problem scoring. That Ole Miss defense, not particularly good. So disappointing day for Oklahoma. On the other side for Ole Miss, I don't know how Ole Miss doesn't wind up in the playoff. They're having the record season in terms of the actual cold, hard results that they were supposed to have last year. And coming into this season, Trinidad Chambliss, he's a dog. He's an absolute guy. You realize what he has thrown for in SEC play against the vaunted SEC defenses, a guy who was at Ferris State last year? Here's his lineup since entering, or his run of passing stats since entering SEC play. 353. Then they played Tulane. Went for 307. Tulane, pretty good defense though. 314. Only 253 against Washington State. 263 and 315. Lane Kiffin, quarterback whisperer, quarterback guru. Yeah, he should get that moniker. He's absolutely earned it across the board. He's taking a Division II guy and going through and likely going to take Ole Miss to the playoff, because Ole Miss has definitely never lost to an opponent they shouldn't, right? Lane Kiffin, that's never happened. It's never happened, right? Right, Lane? You've never done that. That couldn't possibly happen. If they can avoid that, they're going to the playoff. 11-1, I don't care what conference, I don't care what your schedule looks like, 11-1 better get you in the college football playoff. They have South Carolina, the Citadel, and Florida at home, and then at Mississippi State. That Egg Bowl could be wild. The Bulldogs will be hungry to play spoiler. I'm preemptively excited for that game that's many weeks away, but I want to hold. I want to stash my excitement to the back burner because I don't want to rush through this college football season. It's grand, glorious, wonderful, and beautiful every single week, even this in a quote-unquote down week of college football is what you might hear some people say. Yeah, I don't really feel that way at all. That just means more crazy upsets are coming. That's the way this sport works. Ole Miss in the driver's seat to go to the college football playoff. Lane Kiffin's going to be there. And you know what? That's fun. That's exciting. Good for the Rebels. Outright winners, the highest of vibes this week for the Rebels. Bad vibes for Oklahoma. Because you lose at home in a conference game, yeah, you get bad vibes. But again, I don't think Oklahoma's bottoming out. I just think Sooner fans are starting to realize, yeah, okay, there's still some more work to do. Progress is being made, but there's still more work to be done. Ole Miss, though, has gotten through the meat of their schedule, and on the back half, or back third, yeah, they should be able to cruise. Should. Emphasis on should. I'm not trying to jinx you, Ole Miss. I'm just saying you should be able to make it. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.